Well,
And that is just locker room talk. That's all I can say.
oh God, please.
Cole is.
Cole is dirty.
Oh boy.
So was the first 20 minutes of the debate.
That's
But
all.
Yeah,
That's
we're
my
not.
only
That's all we're
message.
gonna say.
yeah, no, no
This
more.
you guys come here because you don't want to watch CNN
I,
and you
I,
don't want to watch MSNBC.
I
And
agree.
we're tired of that, so we are going to take you away from all this ridiculousness and
well,
get relax.
we'll talk about hockey for most of it, obviously. But while we're waiting for our others to come on the show, I just want to ask Russ this: is there something against there being competitive series in the baseball playoffs? Because the Blue Jays sweep the Rangers. Uh, uh, the only series that's not 2-0 or 3-0 is the Dodgers and the Nationals. The
Yeah.
Cubs are dominating the Giants, and the Indians, shockingly, are
Sorry.
wow. The
Hello.
Indians shockingly are up 2-0 on the Red Sox. Where's the competition here?
It's about matchups. It's always about matchups, and I think the matchups are bad. Although I thought San Fran would possibly beat the Cubs, so I guess they're just, they were better with. If Baumgartner could throw every game, I guess they would beat the Cubs. So that's their issue. But I mean, look, the Rangers. Here's the funny thing: they lost the game on an error, right? And the Mets know what that's like with that Lucas Duda misplay at home plate in the World Series. This is what happens when it gets down to the nitty-gritty this time of the year. Sometimes it's that play that loses the game for you. So that one happened to lose the series, right? But they fought back a lot in that game. I give the Toronto Blue Jays tremendous credit because this is a team. I know you don't like them, but this is a team that really has been coming back in games. They've been battling. They play good defense. The pitching's been good.
Ooh,
So, I give them credit.
big news here. The Pittsburgh Penguins have just reported via their Twitter feed that Sidney Crosby has been diagnosed with a concussion.
Oh boy.
Doesn't I'll check out and see if there's any details about when it happened, but I mean, we know the problems that he had after the David Steckel hit
Yeah.
in the outdoor game. And when was it? Was it 2011, 2012?
2012, I think.
Yeah, and you know, I'm just skimming here. Penguins captain Sidney Crosby has been diagnosed with a concussion. It was announced by Jim Rutherford. He sat out the Saturday preseason game versus Columbus. His status will be updated when more information is available, and that's all they say. So they're being very careful here. I mean, after Crosby, dominated in the playoffs, won the Conn Smythe, and then dominated in the World Cup and maybe shouldn't have won the MVP, but was deserving of at least being first or second.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that the Penguins can survive because they have Malkin as well as Crosby, but the way Crosby was playing, I mean, he was back to where he was before the concussion problems, and now this hits.
And you never know when the one is the last or when the next one's coming or how long this one's going to last. You don't know. I mean, I go back to, I remember with Pat LaFontaine. I mean, he had so many. He came back with the Rangers. It looked like things were going great. He had the helmet and the mouthpiece, and I said, you know what? This guy's got it figured out. He gets another one, he's done. You just never know.
Yeah.
And by that, I also mean not necessarily sure how to prevent it either. So, that's the other thing. It's not like you could say, oh, well, they shouldn't have played Crosby in the preseason because he probably, we know he got it in the preseason and that's bad. And it's like, well, when would it have happened in the regular season? Game 1, Game 2, Game 3. I mean, clearly, if he's predisposed to it for some reason that we don't know about,
right,
it didn't matter. Maybe the World Cup caused that problem. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's no way to tell. I mean, it could have been a hit in the World Cup, and then symptoms came up afterward. We've seen it where somebody gets hit, they play a few games, and then the symptoms rear their ugly head. So we don't know. While we're waiting for Eck and Kevin Allen and Ty Anderson to show up on the show, there was some interesting waiver moves this morning. The claims wire will be very interesting tomorrow. morning, and I'm in the process of writing my column for regarding the Leafs for Hockey Buzz, and the one name that pops up is Timu Polkinen of the
Mhm.
Detroit Red Wings. He was placed on waivers. Russ, I'm not going on a limb. I think he's going to get claimed. It's just a question of who is going to claim him. We know that every time Detroit puts somebody on waivers, the team that normally will claim him is Carolina, because Bill Peters was in the Red Wings organization. They've claimed, I think it was Nestrasil. They've claimed Martin Frick.
Yeah.
And now Polkinen's on there, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets to Carolina, that he gets claimed by Carolina. But I would not be shocked if the Toronto Maple Leafs placed a claim on Timu Polkinen, because I think he's a guy who can play in your top 9. I think, and he's, I believe, 22 or 23 years old. He's had a lot of successes at the American Hockey League level.
So I'm looking up. I think he's 23.
Yeah, I'm not sure how what the opinion of Mike
24. 24.
I'm not sure what the opinion of Mike Babcock had of Polkinen when he was head coach of the Wings, but I mean, he is a player that's sort of been like a 4A player who's thrived at the American Hockey League and played okay at the NHL level, but just doesn't seem to be able to break through.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, okay? So he's played 67 NHL games. He's got 11 goals, 20 points. It's not even a full season. Like, you can't gauge him yet that way. I think Mike Babcock didn't like his all-around game. If I remember, that was the issue, because everybody likes his shot. Everybody's willing to put up with the skating because it's not perfect, but he knows how to get in position. He knows how to shoot. He definitely will get a chance, and he deserves another chance, because he doesn't even have a full season under his belt. He had 6 goals in like 31 games last year. That's not bad.
No, and I don't think he was playing anything more than third line duty.
No.
So now, I'm of the opinion, because with the Maple Leafs roster the way it is, that there's a possibility that they could put a claim in on Polkinen. And Patrick O'Sullivan, who's now a commentator for TSN, just recently tweeted, if it doesn't make sense for the Leafs to put a claim in on Polkinen unless they think that Nylander or Marner are not ready. And I don't think Polkinen is a top 6 option. He's, if that was the case, I think Detroit wouldn't have placed him on waivers. But I do think that he's a better option as a right winger in their top 9, and then maybe moving Leo Komarov over to the left side, which he can play center and left and right wing. So I mean, I think there's a possibility that the Leafs do claim him. But if not, I think he's going to get claimed. But other than that, I look through the waiver wire, and the only other names that might be worthy of claim is somebody like Mike Condon, whoever needs a backup goaltender. I know there's been some talk about San Jose needing a backup goalie, and if that's the case, then a guy who played 40-some-odd games last year and didn't play badly for Montreal, maybe that's a guy that San Jose will claim.
Maybe. I mean, I could see that's a possibility. I mean, again, a lot of these guys won't get claimed, though, because teams, when they do start claiming them, then all of a sudden it becomes like a thing, like you can never send anybody through because your guy's going to get claimed. So a lot of times they stay away too, because they don't want it to happen to them. We'll see what happens with this one. I think out of need and necessity, a few will get claimed. Furt's an interesting one because he's got great hands, he's got size, but the all-around game's not there. The skating's good. So we'll see. I mean, that's another one who you take a chance on because, he's got the reflexes of a 20-goal scorer, but he's not been able to show that he belongs at the level. So, and that was kind of known when he was drafted, like, hey, he's a project. Mm-hmm. And so with projects, you gotta wait.
Yeah. I mean, I grant your point that most of these guys, I'd say 95% of them are going to clear. The funny thing is, there is a strategy to this time of year. And obviously I'm talking about I'll use the Leafs as an example right now. They have a player in Josh Levo who played 1 game during the preseason. They said had a injury problem, and they sort of after scoring 5 goals in 12 games last year, I almost got the impression that they were burying him so that there wasn't going to be any kind of light bulbs going off with other general managers throughout the league. Well, anyway, there are 25 players right now. They still have to make 2 more moves before 5 p.m. tomorrow. Most of the teams have made their moves down to 23 already.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hi guys, I'm sorry.
Hey.
We were having issues with Kevin Allen on the in the Googleverse, trying to get him in here, and it looks like it's going to work today. So
okay,
we're just going to punt for now, and then do this with the 3 of us, and then Kevin will be back on Wednesday or Thursday.
Send out an invite to Ty.
Another invite to Ty. Yes, there you go. So and then we will get started here. So what were you guys talking about there?
Well, there was a lot of news that just came out. The Penguins just announced that Crosby has had a concussion, and they didn't make any kind of indications of the severity, but they just announced that, and we were talking about some waiver instances.
Okay.
So we've already covered that, so I guess we can go right into the Atlantic Division.
Let's go right into the Atlantic Division. Of course, did you guys mention the Provorov Konechny thing?
We didn't mention that yet. We could talk about that real quick.
Yeah, real fast. And we'll just do this as the show from now. Let's start here. So it is the 10th of October, 10/10/16. Lord. Okay, that's somebody at my door. No problem. All right, ready? Here we go. Just cover that. Make sure that I'm okay. This is where it's good to have the Ring phone. You can actually see who's at your door.
I have a video camera, but
that's what I have too. No, it brings up.
It brings it up on your phone. Okay.
Yeah, I have something.
I better go check this, guys. Sorry, 1 second.
Okay.
Be right back. I'll talk about Konechny and Provorov for a second while I'm gone.
Okay.
I have something that's called me climbing the stairs and opening the door. Okay, so the news came out. GM Ron Hextall tweeted out, or the Flyers tweeted out, that GM Ron Hextall said that Travis Konechny, their first-round pick from 2014 or 15? 15. Sorry, 15, yeah. And Ivan Provorov, defenseman, had both made the team. Now, in that statement, basically said for the time being. It's like they didn't say they're probably staying for the whole season, but they're.
Well, I heard what I saw was the intention is for the full season, but I have to be honest. That's wording. Anytime anybody gets that 9-game look, it's always the intention to keep them, but other things happen. Will there be an injury that forces them to stay longer and maybe eat that first year of an ELC and then send them back after 30-something games, like Spiza, if you remember? He played like 32 games. Right. Like, there's all kinds of scenarios, so I don't look too deep into it other than this is what I would have done. I said it about a week ago, if you remember, that this is what I would have done. Right. It makes sense, and based on their injury situation and the Gouda suspension that's looming, they pretty much, are making the right decision here. Now, the rest is up to the kids. It's up to the kids and the coach, so we'll see.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, even 9 games now is not the breaking point, because we saw with Sprong.
Yeah.
We saw with Grigorenko in the past. It can be as much as 40 games. We saw with Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah.
It can be up to 40 games. They just don't want to. They may be open to burning the first year of the entry level contract.
That's all it's about.
But not burning 1 year of free agency, and that's 40 less than 40 games. So, I mean, I think that obviously if they're keeping them, they want to take a longer look at them and see how they do throughout the season. But every GM, Lou Lamoriello in Toronto with Mitch Marner, Ron Hextall in Philadelphia with these 2 players, Pavel Zacha and Ray Shero in New Jersey, they're keeping their options open.
Bergevin and Sergachev and also
Conan.
Yes.
I also get a sense that, I'm not going to say Hextall was playing everybody, but I think that it was very important to him for the culture of this team to have the players who were around realize that the young guys had to earn their spots and weren't just going to be given spots.
I agree.
I think in the past that wasn't always the case here. So sometimes rookies would, here's Ty. Sometimes rookies would come right in, and be pretty much assume that they were going to make the team. And I think he really wanted to make sure that everybody on this team knew that Provorov and Konechny had to fight for their jobs. And they both did as well as they could have done. I mean, they both had really good camps. So that's why they're gonna stay here for a while, and I think the Flyers fans are gonna really enjoy both those players, and we'll see how it plays out from there. They're two very exciting players, and I think what can't be kind of underemphasized about Konechny is the fact that he was making Voracek better, which is like that's something that people weren't realizing. Like that Voracek's has to be good for the Flyers to be good. That's obvious. Last year Voracek was terrible. So Voracek was really good in the preseason, and that wasn't because he was playing with Giroux. It was because he was playing with Konechny. And Giroux was playing with Simmons, and they had those situations. Mike, what's up?
Dave Molinari from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette just tweeted out, the strange and troubling thing about Crosby's concussion is that there was no on-ice collision or incident that obviously caused it. So they're saying it was something off the ice. So, if it's something like that, then it was not like a major collision. It was not a slam along the boards. It was something that, we don't know. But that sort of situation just makes this, even more scary because it was not something like not a big jarring hit. That means that may mean that in the future, if he does get hit again, it's a progressive situation with concussion. Yeah. So this is not good.
You would have to say at the minimum, he's going to miss 2 to 3 weeks of the season to start. I would say that's probably the minimum.
Yeah. Oh, and I know we'll touch on it with the Florida Panthers when we go through the Atlantic. But the Jonathan Huberdeau injury is a major blow to the Panthers as well.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to it with the division. The other thing I'd say about the Crosby thing is if it took a month and a half, just because they feel like the time away from the one concussion to the next, if they could float that because their team is good, that's what they're going to do.
Yes. Yeah.
They have to. Yeah. All right. Let's. So the actual news on Crosby is officially, because a lot of people are saying what's going on with Crosby exactly because they're just joining in. So give us exactly what's happening.
Okay, the Pittsburgh Penguins reported that Sidney Crosby had suffered a concussion. They did not specify the severity of the concussion. They did not specify any length of time. They just said he had a concussion. And now Dave Molinari, who's a veteran reporter with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, has reported that Crosby's concussion was not related to anything on the ice, that it was a non-on-ice collision or incident. So we don't know what happened. We don't. Wow. So I'm sure the details will be forthcoming because this is one of the best players in the game, and it will eventually get out. But
it's non-on ice. We may never know the details. Let's be real about that too.
Yeah, that's true. Is this Dustin Penner and the pancakes again?
It could be anything. It could be just something that happened in his house. We're not going to find out about it.
I almost killed myself the other day trying to cut a lock off my gate. So anything's possible.
Again you did this?
Yeah, no, that was last year. But it can happen.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, it's especially when you're me. All right, but it's not me, fortunately. So, but I try to hurt myself daily somehow. Anyway, all right, so let's get on with the show. Then we have Ty. I will say the date because it's already 1:30. Here we go. Ready, guys? And we're gonna rip through this Atlantic Division today with Boston and Toronto as best we can. Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, October 10th, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello.
We can't hear you, Ty.
He's trying.
You're muted or something. We don't hear you at all. No.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology, and Ty's trying to get his mic working.
And that's Ty. That's Ty Anderson.
Hey, Ty.
Ty, log off and log back on. Yeah. Try that.
That was Ty Anderson. And we're going to start with the Atlantic Division preview today because we have 4 days to do 4 previews as I see it, and so we're going to have to do this as efficiently as we can. Now, we've already gone through the teams in the Metro Division. We're going to talk about the Metro Division on Thursday because none of the teams actually play till Thursday. So we've gone through those teams as it is. Yes. Ty.
Speak, Ty, speak.
Nothing. No sound.
Wow.
We're having a good technological day here.
Wow, what the hell? Google,
let's begin the show as best we can and move on to it. So this division, I honestly, I did all my predictions over the weekend, going through all the divisions. This was the hardest one for me to predict.
It's definitely the hardest.
Don't you think so? It's just because there are, even though it's not hard at the top of it, it's there are about 6 teams or four, at least four teams that could be at the bottom, separated by 6 points, kind of thing. It's just
because I cover this division, and I'm in one of the cities in the division, and I cover another team in the division, and I see these teams all the time. I don't think it's that complex. I think there are certain teams that are going down and certain teams that are going to be at the top, and it's a question of the teams that are improving.
Let's see if we can hear Ty for a second. Go ahead, Ty. We got nothing. I'm sorry. We can read lips and we shouldn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you think there's all right. I do think there's certain teams rising and certain teams climbing, but I think for the most part, this division is made up of teams that are rising. I mean, I think that this is a division, when I looked at it, that I saw two teams that you could maybe say were falling, but the rest of them, and even those falling teams are iffy, you know, like
there's a really good falling team there, I think, but there's a really good one, but they're falling.
I think there are three teams that are falling, three teams that are staying either stationary or Montreal is sort of recovering back to where they were before the Carey Price injury, so I don't consider them climbing.
All right, so let's go with number 8. Who do you have in number 8?
I have the Ottawa Senators 8.
Ottawa Senators. Okay,
so the Ottawa Senators could be the worst team in hockey.
Fascinating. All right, Russ, number 8.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Ottawa as well. I agree.
I mean, their goaltending is at best slightly above average if Craig Anderson stands on his head, which he has a tendency to do. Their defense, obviously, Erik Karlsson's one of the best defensemen in the league, but they improved a little bit on the second pairing with Dion Phaneuf. But defensively overall, unless Guy Boucher is a wizard and gets that team to buy into a defensive concept, they simply cannot keep the puck out of their own net.
Yeah, defense and goaltending are going to be the things that either sink them or pull them through. I think they'll have enough offense, and I think Boucher will keep them in games with a lot of offense, but I think this team could lose a lot of close games. I do.
Okay, it's possible. I don't have them there, but I will. I will talk about them when I get to them.
Okay.
Because the team I have here is the Boston Bruins.
Oh my goodness.
All right, and I'm sorry, no, it's wrong. The Detroit Red Wings. Sorry, I have the Detroit Red Wings here. I'm sorry, I had the wrong thing. I have the Detroit Red Wings here. That's who I have here. All right, let me say that the reason I have the Detroit Red Wings here, I know it's. First of all, as we know, when we do these predictions every year, there are a few teams that just absolutely surprise everybody in how good they are or how not good they are, right? And I always look for those teams. I try to find those teams because there's going to be a couple of them, and you can guess really wrong on this when you do this, or you can get really lucky, like I did last year. When I said San Jose would do well and everything like that. Mm-hmm. This is Detroit. They have not added enough, in my opinion. I mean, Nielsen's a great addition, granted. Mr. Anderson. Let's see.
All right.
We're hearing stuff. We got you.
All right.
Great. Wonderful. Good.
All right. Ty Anderson. Happy
Hi. I'm angry.
A happy Ty Anderson. This is always good.
Yeah.
So we're talking about who we're picking number 8 in this so far. Both those guys have picked the Ottawa Senators as number 8 in this division. I have gone out and said that I picked the Detroit Red Wings as the number 8 team in this division. And I do so because I honestly feel like this team has not, although they have really good young players, they don't have a great balance. I don't love their defense. I don't love their goaltending. I think they are in a situation where they don't have a number 1 goalie because they have 2 quote-unquote number 1 goalies. I'm not big in Mrazek. I saw them last year towards the end of the season just really struggle. And without Datsyuk, it's a big loss. There's a reason they went all in on Stamkos. They knew that they were in trouble, and they knew they had to do something big to stay competitive. So, like I said, I think the bottom 4 teams in this division could be separated by 6 points. I think it's that close, so I'm just going with one of them, and I'm going to say the one that's going to fall back the most, Detroit. Ty?
Yeah, but I don't know. I think there's still enough there to make them anything besides last place.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I have to go Ottawa there just because I don't like I don't love anything on their team aside from Erik Karlsson. And I think that's going to be a big problem. Obviously, though, I feel like every time we pick Ottawa to be terrible, they're actually a surprise team make the playoffs. So
right.
That could happen, of course, but I look at this sort of as, I mean, right now it's Ottawa. I think there's just too many question marks, not enough proven commodities, but that's sort of been their MO. So maybe I'm wrong, but I just can't see with Detroit just because I think their coach is good enough. The thing that I really don't like about Detroit is that they keep losing players to the waiver wire like every year now.
Yeah.
And I think that comes back down to either Ken Holland, who for the longest time we all thought was a wonderful GM and scouting master. We think it's either him not capitalizing on the assets that he has, or it's, the coach is not figuring out how to use these guys. And when you look at their bottom six, Drew Miller, Steve Ott, I mean, they took a flyer on Thomas Vanek, and, that might be a great deal. We haven't seen it yet. But I just think that there is a disconnect there between what we used to praise the Red Wings for, which was scouting, developing young kids, and sort of ushering in a new era of dominance.
Well, that was Jim Nill. And they lost Jim Nill.
And now they don't really have that. And I think they're starting to pay the price for it. These past 2 years, they have backed into the postseason.
Yeah.
I don't think they can do that this year. I think the Metro is too good of a division, and I do think that you're going to see some teams in the Atlantic, the Sabres, the Maple Leafs, the Canadiens. You're going to see a pushback from these teams now because after a strong offseason, another year of developing their kids. So I can see the fall of Detroit coming. I just don't think it's going to be 8th place.
Okay. There you go.
So let's move.
Let's go to number 7 then. We'll start with you, Ty. Number 7.
Buffalo Sabres. This team they win the offseason every year. They're like the Buffalo Bills. They win the offseason every year. And it's never gonna pan out. I don't think it's gonna pan out right now. They're trying Evander Kane with Jack Eichel. Obviously, that's an idea. They want to trade Evander Kane, boost his value while they still can. I'm not in love with their defense. I think Robin Lehner is a backup goaltender. I don't think he's a starter in this league. So I really do think that they are going to be the 7th place team in the East. The Atlantic, sorry.
Does Dan Bilesma have an overweight younger brother or twin brother? Well, okay, so I have 7th as the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think they're going to be dramatically better than they were last year, but they were the worst team in the league by leaps and bounds last year, and there's going to be some growing pains with those young players. I'm not sold that Mike Babcock is going to live through the warts of William Nylander and Mitch Marner throughout the year. There may be points where they have to send Nylander down to the minors to teach him a lesson, or their defense. Their second defensive pairing is Roman Polak and probably Jake Gardner, which could be one of the worst in the league. There are great things that are happening with Toronto. Austin Matthews is going to be a very good young player. They have some quality veteran guys like Komarov and Van Riemsdyk. There's just not enough there. So I think they're a work in progress, and you're going to see a lot of progress in the second half of the year. But I don't think you're going to see like them challenging for a playoff spot, which some people in Toronto think that is going to happen. It's not going to happen. I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the first half of the year because it's going to be trying to get used to Babcock's system and a lot of rookies making a lot of mistakes. So I think they're going to end up in 7th in the division.
All right, Russ?
Yeah, I think it's the Sabres. I think the goaltending will be okay. I mean, it won't be top-notch, but I think it'll be okay. And if Leonard is the guy, I think he can do it. The problem is, if they're starting the season without Ristolainen, they're really behind the 8 ball because their defense isn't good enough already. Yeah. And that's a huge loss. So if he's out for, let's say, 10 games, that's 10 games they're not getting back. They might win 3 of them, maybe 4. I mean, so I like the offense. I think it's getting better, but I also think Evander Kane being on that roster would be a disadvantage to them all season, whether it's on the ice, off the ice, trying to figure out a spot for him. They're going to have to Bilesma will have to expend way more energy than he wants to try and get him to fit in somewhere. So I have to say I think it's the Sabres.
And Russ, he's playing on the number 1 line with Eichel and Reinhart. So
for now.
For now, but they put him front and center because they want to build up his offensive statistics so they can may more easily trade him at the deadline if he actually is doing something.
I am going to complete that cycle and say Buffalo as well. That's where I had Buffalo as well. This was a tough call between this team, the team I'm going to mention next, and the Sabres. Again, I think my 4 bottom teams, I could have thrown up a hat in any which way. The one thing I want to say about Buffalo, because you guys all did a good justice, is that I saw a lot more from Jack Eichel than I realized he had at the World Cup. When I was there, I was really impressed with him. I have to say, in what I really liked about him that I didn't realize, because I don't get to see these guys play enough, like the prospects, and in that situation when they're all playing together, you really got a sense of what they were all about. That was what was fun about that.
Yep.
And what he is on that team of the young, North American team, there were two players that had the ability to find another level, and it was McDavid and Eichel. In my mind, those were the two players who had that when things started pushing, when you could see the game got more intense, you could see that as good as they were in the regular part of the game, they had another place to go. Now, I'm not saying Matthews doesn't have that eventually, but I just didn't see it as much in this particular tournament. I saw it with Eichel and I saw it with McDavid, where they both had that other level.
I'll raise my hand and say I saw it with Matthews, but I've seen a lot of Matthews previously.
Yeah, and and I saw Matthews very good in the beginnings of games. I saw really straight, like he would come out strong. He would come out but then I would see him, I thought, wear a little bit as the game went on. But he's still an unbelievable player. This is not a knock on Matthews. This is more just talking about like the two players that I saw that looked like that had that special something that you don't see very often. That was obvious on that team was McDavid and Eichel. And I'll throw out a little bit of McKinnon too. Like he also had it as well.
Honestly, the funny thing is that in Buffalo, a lot of people thought that Eichel underachieved at the World Cup.
Points wise, he did. But if you just watched him play, he didn't. I mean, he was trying everything he could try. He was pushing as hard as he could possibly push. Like he was taking the team on his shoulders. He was doing that thing that you don't see people do. He doesn't necessarily, I mean, they fell short. That team fell short, right? So, and he didn't necessarily finish those. I mean, we'll talk about McKinnon later, but I mean, the really thing I loved about McKinnon was how feisty McKinnon can be, which you don't really see all the time. He really has another side to him that was just really exciting to watch. Because on that team, he was able to take that role. He was allowed to be that guy. So, but Eichel, really, that's where I'm going to go with him. Now, going to number 6, we'll start this time with you, Russ.
I think now we've hit Detroit territory. I think they're eventually going to go back to Jimmy Howard, and I think that's their best bet. Zetterberg has to stay healthy. Definitely another gear for Larkin, even though he was great. I mean, now it's his second season. I could see even bigger things for him. I could see Anthony Mantha contributing, and it's never going to make up for Datsuk, but he definitely will contribute. All that said, their defense still isn't good enough. And so that's what's placing them here is their defense, really.
Ty?
I go Maple Leafs here. I think, the process isn't over yet. Like they still have to do another year or so of developing these kids before they're ready to really shine. Babcock, he can work some wonders, but I just think that there's still a lot of roster holes and, a lot more of going to be a lot more selling at the deadline, I think, again. Yes. So we'll see, but that's the team that I think will finish 6th in this division. I just think it's a matter of you got a lot of teams just kind of clogged up in the middle there, and I just don't know if they have the head-to-head edge with anyone just yet.
Sure. Mike?
I have Detroit 6th for many of the reasons that everyone has said. I don't think they have a number 1 goaltender. I don't think they've ever had a number 1 goaltender when Jimmy Howard is there. They're probably going to give Mrazek a shot at it, but I think they'll end up going back to Howard eventually, which I think will key their demise. Their defense has never been the same since Nicholas Lidstrom, and they've never done anything to really improve it. I thought spending $6 million on Mike Green was a big waste of money. And unless they make a trade for Jacob Trouba, I don't think their defense is going to get significantly better. Their forwards are not as good without Datsuk. Even at 37 years old, Datsuk is still probably their best forward. They need too many things to go right, like Anthony Mantha to play, for Dylan Larkin to take them things on their shoulders, all these things to fall into place to challenge for the playoffs, and I just don't think it's realistic that everything will fall into place.
Look, if Thanasu could score 20 goals, it wouldn't shock me either.
Right, you're hoping for too much for everything to fall into place for them to challenge for a playoff spot. I just don't think it's realistic. So
what Detroit has going for them is they probably are the fastest team in the NHL. I mean, they have like unbelievable speed up and down the lineup, and mean, that's hard to deny, but they have so many other issues.
And one of the things that can't be underestimated, Dak, is the fact that their organizational depth is starting to wane a little bit. We were talking about this earlier. They lose a guy like Martin Furk, who is a prospect and decent depth guy. They lose him on waivers to Carolina. They lost a guy like Nestrasil last year. They're probably going to lose Teemu Pulkkinen, who they waived today. You know, their options in terms of going down to Grand Rapids and getting that stockpile of guys, that depth in the organization is not as deep as it was. They have guys like Svechnikov and a few other players who are good that are down there, but you know, the sign of an organization on the decline is the pool of prospects that they have also declines, and that's what's happening there. Yeah,
I agree with that. All right, I want to make it an admission here. Okay, when I did this before I went to the World Cup of Hockey, and I did it after. So I said I wanted to just write. You know, it was just one day I was on the plane. I was on the plane actually, and I'm like, I'll just do my division predictions now, just for the heck of it, see where I'm at. This is where I had Boston before the World Cup of Hockey. I actually did put them in 6th. This is where I put them, and then I was going to the World Cup of Hockey, seeing that Marchand was not a fluke last year, and if anything else was even better, and seeing what Bergeron was doing, and then, you know, seeing that Chara still had something left in his game, and a lot of stuff and even Rask looked really good in the World Cup to me. There was just I had to move them out to hit the spot. But this is where I have Toronto. This is where I have Toronto in number 6, and so I've got Detroit 8, Buffalo 7, Toronto 6. I think Toronto is better than Buffalo, and I think they're better than Detroit. I also think that Babcock will. We very typically see a team that's just so terrible, you know, get like a little bit of energy in the beginning of the season to get strong enough for a while, having this, you know, we're not 35 points out of a playoff spot mentality that they start, you know, playing harder. And I think you're going to see a good start out of Toronto. I think they could be in the playoffs by, you know, in November. I think you could see some things in November where they're, you know, early November where they're in the playoffs, but I don't think they'll be there by American Thanksgiving, the dreaded American Thanksgiving, whatever, but I think they'll be close.
Dreaded American Thanksgiving.
By the way, today is Canadian Thanksgiving.
Yes, so, I know.
Happy Canadian Thanksgiving to those of you out there.
Yeah, I mean, my read on Toronto is it's going to be the exact opposite. That they're going to start slow, and then when these young players get experience, that's when they're going to be playing the way you're referring to. And I mean, the talent is there, but they've shown, and we know exhibition season and regular season are two different things.
Totally different.
But when they got to the end of the preseason, they were still being outworked and manhandled by a Montreal team that put out a regular season lineup against. So I'm a little hesitant.
But that Montreal game, too much has been made of that Montreal game. I'm telling you, I really think, because that Montreal game was, you know, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that the return of Carey Price? That wasn't that his first game back. You're in Montreal, the Carey Price is returning. You got all your lineup going. Yeah, of course they're going to come. I mean, that's an emotional game for the Montreal Canadiens. They weren't playing that like a preseason game. They were playing that, you know, full out, right? I mean, that's my. I mean,
maybe.
Ty. Sorry, I thought you had something.
No. I this comes back to what I was saying though. You got this log jam where it could be. Yeah. You could have 4 different teams in the spot. Yeah. You can find justification for any of them.
Well, yeah. Because
we'll talk about Boston when Ty where Ty puts them. Let's do that. So we'll continue on.
Right.
All right, and we'll go to the 5th spot, which we will start with Ty.
For me, that is the. Oh geez, what did I just say? Oh, Detroit Red Wings. That's where I got the Red Wings slotted for all the reasons we've already talked about. So that's where I got them.
All right, Mike.
I have Buffalo at 5, but I agree with your assessment that these teams are all going to be, say, within 8 to 10 points of each other.
Yeah.
I think Ristolainen will get solved. I think it'll get solved relatively quickly because they know that defense cannot survive without a guy who scored 41 points and played 25 minutes a night. So I think they're eventually going to get it done. And I think Eichel and Reinhart are going to improve dramatically. And maybe the addition of Calaposo to play on a second line with Ryan O'Reilly will help them a lot. I like the depth at forward. I don't think Evander Kane is going to be much of a success there, but you know they're hoping that he is. The defense is the big question mark. Other than Ristolainen, you know, guys like Georges and Franzen, they're all going to have to step up for them to. You know, a lot of people around here think they can challenge for a playoff spot. I don't particularly think so. I have a little more confidence in Robin Leonard than Ty does. I think Robin Leonard can be a number one goaltender, and he's lost about 30 pounds this offseason, so he's in the best shape of his career. His problem is he keeps getting hurt. He's a magnet. He's the Joffrey Lupul of goaltenders. If he can stay away from being hurt, then
the Joffrey Lupul of goaltenders.
Well, I mean, Joffrey Lupul sneezes and he gets hurt, and Robin Leonard, it's like he had a high ankle sprain in the first game of the season last year, and it derailed their season. So
yeah, no, that's true.
If they stay healthy, then they have a chance of being, I would say, over 500 and being in that sort of 83 to 88 point range. So I think they're going to finish fifth.
Well, that's why I can't tell you that Robin Leonard is a starting goaltender because I haven't seen it.
Right.
He's hurt all the time. So
that's fair.
That's what half the criticism on my end comes from, is that I haven't seen enough of a sample to prove that he's durable enough or
I agree.
strong enough to even be a starting goaltender in this league. So
That's
I
fair.
could be wrong, and I'm totally open to that. I have been wrong many times. I just think if you got a goaltender that can't stay healthy, you don't got a number one goaltender.
No, that's exactly it. And you don't, and they haven't seen it yet, you know. And he has all the potential to be a great goalie. Russ, who do you have here?
Toronto. I think Mike's a little too close to the situation. I think Matthews makes them better. I think Nylander makes them better. Zaitsev makes them better. And I think, like this year, Mike Babcock will coach differently than even last year. He'll play Matt Hunwick to death. He'll just play him for 29 minutes until his feet fall off. He doesn't care.
Russ, if he does that, that guarantees them 28.
Well, it depends when he does it. I'm just saying he will shorten the bench more this year than he did last year. He's got more to work with offensively. He's got more to work with defensively. He's got a real goalie now. And that's another one who still, for me, has to stay healthy. I'm not 100% on Frederick Anderson either. But
the thing about that, Mike, you keep saying, like, no one in this division is finishing 28th. That's or 30. I mean 30th. I'm saying no one in this division. Because they're all playing each other, and there's no one. I mean,
that's math for you out there.
That's math, right? And there's not. I mean, you have 4 teams maybe that are not very good, but you have 4 teams who are playing each other all the time too. So that's gonna. I mean, the fact that Buffalo gets to play Toronto and Detroit so often, that to me is going to and Toronto gets to play Buffalo and Detroit. It's just the way that works. No one's gonna be that terrible.
I don't think Toronto's going to finish in 30th. I don't think Ottawa's going to finish in 30th, but I think there's a possibility that Toronto
put Ottawa in there too, right?
Toronto could very easily finish in the bottom 5 again this year. I mean, it does not mean that they're not going to improve.
Hey, I didn't even get to mention Mitch Marner, but he's in there too, right? So this is a lot more offense or potential offense than he had last year. And if guys like JVR and stuff stay healthy, they're going to score more goals. They might give up goals, but they're going to score goals. And Anderson could be the difference. I like him in this spot. Mike's wrong.
What?
And historically, younger teams do start off better and fade than start off not well and get better. Younger teams, very rarely do what you're saying they're going to do, Mike. And that maybe you might be right, but usually younger teams do come out of the gate flying.
Yeah.
And especially teams that have been terrible the year before who are young. So that's why I think that you get the quick start. If they get the quick start and they do actually develop into something like you're thinking they could develop into, then they might be a playoff.
I'd hate to be a defenseman having to cover Austin Matthews opening night.
Oh, I know. He's just put it this way: no one's going to skip out on a Toronto game on Game Center anymore. That's gonna be the thing. That's gonna be fun about that. So
I'm not saying this team is going to be boring to watch. They're
going to be exciting to watch. I get it.
I'm really excited for the season as a hockey fan to be able to watch some offensive talent instead of watching P.A. Parento playing the first power play. But I also am keeping my expectations relatively reasonable and low in the sense that there's a lot of holes on this team. I mean, you got to remember, right now, their number 1 center is Nazem Kadri. It is not Austin Matthews. Maybe by the second, third week of the season.
It will be.
Or the second or third shift, it will be. Yeah, I mean, look how long it took Austin Matthews to become the number 1 line in the World Cup. I mean, it didn't take very long at all. I don't think second, third week. Third shift.
But this is the thing. I mean, for a normal organization and for a normal coach, you would be right. But this is Babcock, and Babcock is Babcock did not play Morgan Riley on the power play until after the trade deadline.
No offense to Morgan Riley, he's a good young defenseman.
Yeah, here's the thing.
He's not Austin Matthews.
Austin Matthews is more ready for the NHL this year than Riley was his first year.
Or even last year, probably.
Or even last year, right? Wasn't even his first year. Correct.
I mean, to me, so that's all right. We got to move quickly. Boston is where I have. So I have Boston. This is where I put Boston, number 5. And that's That's where I've got Boston. So, and we'll get into Boston when we get there, because we have about 10 minutes to do the rest of this. All right. All right. So number 4, Mike, we're back to you. I guess this is my turn to start, actually, isn't it?
Oh, well, whatever.
I'll start this one. All right. This is where I have the Florida Panthers. Florida Panthers at number 4. I don't. When you looked back at their last year, it was remarkable, but it was remarkable because they got unbelievable goaltending. All right. And Luongo was great, and they went out and got Reimer, who can also be very good, but they can both be good and still not get the Panthers into the playoffs. Like, they've got to be a combination of unbelievable again, because Jágr cannot be your leading scorer, and it's just not going to work that way. This is Barkov's a hell of a player. I mean, an unbelievable player, and he could be the lead. He could really dominate. But even then, Huberdeau's gone for a while now. We talked about that. Or if we didn't, he's gone for a while, and that's tough. And that's tough, right? So, and the defense, I've talked about how much I love Ekblad. I think he's maybe the top 2 or 3 defensemen in the league, but there are still issues with Florida that came through last year that Luongo bailed them out from, and they are not. I don't love the way this. As much as I've always been a Gallant guy, I didn't love the way he coached them in the playoffs last year. At times, I think there's certain things he's been too conservative with them. They need to push harder. So I think this is where Florida falls for number 4. Ty?
Montreal Canadiens. I just think Carey Price is back. Yeah, that's great. You traded your best defenseman, one of the best defensemen in the league, for a guy who's older and slower. And yeah, he might make you a little bit better in the locker room. But you traded the heart and soul of that team. You traded Lars Eller for Andrew Shaw. Great. That's a lateral move, if not a downgrade, in my opinion. I'm not in love with anything Montreal did. Radulov is a pickup. Sure, maybe that works out for them. But I look at that team, and I think trading Subban is one of these moves that's really going to haunt them for a very long time now. Weber has been declining for a few years. Carey Price can only do so much, and now that you took away his best defenseman, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. So I have them as a 4.
That's interesting. Mike?
4, I have Boston. I think the addition of Backus in the short term will help them. I think they've got re-signed Marchand. Maybe the motivation won't be there now to score 35 goals, but I think that him with Bergeron is one of the best pairings in terms of forwards in the league. Defense is a question mark. We see that they brought in Ehrhoff on a PTO. Apparently, he's going back to Europe now. But I think that Tuukka Rask in goal. I think there's enough there up front, and I think there's enough there on the blue line. Even though Chara is starting to slip away, that they can compete for a playoff spot. I personally think that both wild cards are coming from the Metro, so this would mean that Boston, for the 3rd year in a row, finishes just outside of the top 8. But I think they're going to contend for the top 8. So this is where I have Boston.
Russ?
It depends. Ty, Brandon Carlo, Rob O'Gara. What do you think is going to happen?
Brandon Carlo is probably going to be in your top pairing opposite Daniel Chara. Robbie O'Gara is probably going to start the year as your 7th or 8th defenseman.
Okay. I would put the Montreal Canadiens here then. I don't like everything about them. I still think they are going to struggle a little bit for scoring. Price is going to help them tremendously. Shea Weber will help the toughness. Shaw will help the toughness, but Shaw is also going to get suspended a few times, and he's going to be in the box a lot, so they're going to have to deal with that. Their power play's got to be better. We'll see if they actually get back to the old Montreal power play where it's really good. I think they're missing some elements, and I think they are missing them on defense. Sergachev helps them, but he's not going to be a defensive stalwart in his first year. He's going to help everything offensively and help physical play, but I don't think he's going to be Aaron Ekblad. I don't. So this is where I have Montreal.
Montreal. All right. Number 3. I guess, Mike, why don't you start this one?
This is where I have the Habs, and this is, put an asterisk next to this if Carey Price stays healthy, because they will need Price healthy the entire season to finish in the top 3. Radulov is basically Alexander Semin with the need of a straitjacket to keep him from driving people crazy. He's nuts. He's talented, but he's nuts. And, it could end up being a good fit in Montreal, but it also could be a disaster. So, I mean, go back to the fact that they really, other than Radulov, did not address adding offense. Andrew Shaw and Eller are basically a wash. I do think in the short term that they'll benefit from Shea Weber because Weber fits more what Therrien wants to do in terms of a defensive concept. But in the end, 3-4 years down the line, they're going to regret that deal. It all, in my mind, it all hinges on Carey Price. If he's healthy, they make the playoffs. If he's not, they're down 6th, 7th place in this division.
Yeah. Russ.
All right. For this one, I'm going Florida Panthers because the Huberdeau injury is big. It's another year for Jágr, so we'll see if he still has the magic. We'll see with this defensive core. Again, there's a lot of new players, a lot of different guys in different spots there. That could take a couple weeks just to sort out. I like what they have. I like their offense. They're great power play. I mean, it's a great power play. One of the best, if not the best. But at the end of the day, I have to see all this movement on defense is not always a good thing.
They got rid of a lot of veteran defensemen too. That's my reason for putting them down. Is their balance. They had a really interesting balance last year that worked for them. Now they went young. They sort of rebuilt a little bit like a year ahead of time, and now step back a little bit to me. Ty?
This is number 3, right?
Yep.
Boston Bruins.
Boston Bruins.
I do look at this right now.
No, actually, that's right. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I do look at this team. Yes, they are in transition of sorts. Yes, Char will be 40 at the end of this year. But you look at what this roster is right now. Right now, they have David Pastrnak with Bergeron and Marchand. That is a great first line.
Oh, yeah.
That is a first line that is going to give teams absolute fits this year. Also, looking at their second line right now, it's Spooner, Krejci, and Backus. You got 3 centers on one line, something that Claude Julien probably picked up from Team Canada as an assistant coach. Yeah. I like that group. Your third line's Bolesky and Hayes. You got 2 guys that are in their proper roles now. These guys bounced around the lineup last year. But on defense, Brandon Carlos, 6'5" defenseman, 19 years old. Probably going to make the team as your top pairing guy opposite Zdeno Chara to begin the year. You look at the way that Carlos skates, the way he eliminates time and space for the opponents. Saturday, he was matched up against the Claude Giroux line all throughout the night and really kept them at bay. Very impressive player, very strong skater. And one of the things that he does very well is he is great at standing opponents up at the blue line versus caving into the defensive zone. That's something that the Bruins have really stressed this offseason. Especially with their defenseman. Butch Cassidy's up from Providence. He's their assistant coach now. Big get for them, I do believe. And Tuukka Rask finally has a backup who can actually give him a break. Anton Hudobin, one of these sort of quietly strong goaltenders in the NHL over the past 4 years. I like the depth now. They can handle injury. Last year they couldn't handle injuries. They couldn't handle inconsistencies. This roster is built with the idea that if a player goes down, you can plug 2 or 3 guys into his spot.
Yeah.
And obviously, they can't handle every injury. If Chara gets hurt, that's a big one.
Yeah.
But almost everywhere else, they can handle an injury. So I do like what this team has done this offseason. You look at them in camp, they look well. There's more structure in their game. They weeded out some of the energy players, Ronaldo, Talbot. These guys are gone now. And they brought in hockey players that can play the tempo that they want to play. I think they're going to be a surprise team. It's funny to see a lot of people picking them to be at the bottom or not making the playoffs or saying that they're grossly mismanaged. No, they've developed a good little core here. And even in the minors, a guy like DeBrusk, if O'Gara's not in the NHL to begin the year, he's going to be on that door. He's going to be knocking at that door. They have some guys now that are ready to step up and play big roles, and I think they will.
Yeah, that's good. I like it. That's good. I mean, and you're almost convincing me to move them up because I'm like I've got the Bruins and the Panthers 4 and 5, and even my 3, 4, and 5 teams are really right there. So yeah, it's interesting to hear how well you think they're doing because you're right there all the time. So I would go with that, guys. You're betting people. Don't go with what I'm about to say. Go with what Ty just said because I'm about to say that Ottawa is going to finish in 3rd, and that is what you guys are not going to agree with at all because you all went with Ottawa very down the bottom. But I'm going to tell you kind of what Ty said was a little bit of foreshadowing. You never pick Ottawa to do badly, right? They are the New Jersey Devils of this division. They are the team that will always do opposite of what you think they're going to do. And I'm going to go on this. one, I love Guy Boucher. I think, and I loved what I saw of him in Europe when I heard him interviewed after Europe. I interviewed him before, like I said. I haven't interviewed him since, but I've heard him interviewed since, and he's a totally different animal now. He is not going to be a defensive coach, which is going to surprise people. He's not going to come back, I don't think, with a defensive style, but more of an offensive
when
style.
does Nashville play them? We should look that up. But go ahead.
Right. So, and Boucher shares a trait that the Senators team shares, in that, this Senators team, I think, really came to age in that streak 2 years ago where they were pouring it on at the end of the year and made the playoffs as a surprise and all that stuff. They took it out, and then they say this great that was like too soon great, and then they had a year where they completely fell off. And now I can see them coming back to sort of where they were a mixture, more good than bad, and actually come into some balance. So that's why I've got the Ottawa Senators there. Number 2 for me in this division is the Montreal Canadiens. And as much as I don't agree with Michel Therrien, I do think that they actually made some pretty good moves in this. And I actually think Shaw is going to be a surprise. I think he's going to be a really good player for them. I don't like him at all. He's not the kind of player, but he can score, and Montreal has nothing like him, so he really is going to stand out and going to fill a role that no one else fills on that team at all. So I think Shaw's going to surprise people, like with like a 25 goal season, something like that. Like that would really be out there, but I could see it. I like the Shea Weber trade from both teams' perspectives. I think it's a good trade for them.
With Gallagher and Shaw there, the Orkin man in Montreal is going to have to be on alert constantly.
They're very different though. They're different kinds of pests, right? And Galchenyuk, they've once again said he's going to play only center. That's fine. I don't buy that until we see where it gets to, because they never seem to stick to that. But I think their defense is solid. And Price was he looked all of Carey Price when I saw him at the World Cup. I was impressed. I mean, he was really, really good. So he's the best goalie in the world if he plays like that. And there's no question about that. So when you have the best goalie in the world, you're definitely a playoff team. I don't see how you can't be. That's my number 2. Ty.
Number 2, Florida Panthers. I love that defense. I think they made it even better this offseason. And I think that will sort of quell some of the concerns people have with their offense. When you have a great defense like that between Demers, I think Yandel, Ekblad, obviously. I like that team a lot. James Reimer is a great complementary piece to Luongo, especially as Luongo gets older, injuries, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. I do think that he would be good enough for 25, 30 starts and give them 15, 16 wins, whatever it may be, enough to keep pace, enough not to fall behind. So
I worry about where's Matheson falling in this now that they've picked up all these defensemen. I know Dale Talon wanted him higher in the pairings. He's probably a third pairing guy now, right?
Yeah, which is never. I mean, with these young kids, I don't think it's ever a bad thing, because you can always work your way up. It's not like that's the highest you can go. I worry more about a guy when he's brought into the mix and he's first pairing right away. Like for all my praise of Carlo, I wouldn't be surprised if they put him in the third pairing with Lyles to begin the year. Put him with a veteran who knows what they're doing. Things like I could see them doing the Florida Panthers doing that with Matheson here. I think that's a big thing for them. I mean, I just look at this roster and it's strong from the net out, and I think it's a complete roster, and I think that's an important thing for this division, especially when you're going to have so many teams bunched up there. I look at the defense and the goaltending and say, yeah, they can probably hang with most of what the opposition will throw at them offensively. So I got them there. I just think that's finally time they build off a momentum. They build off a playoff run. They struggle doing that historically, but I think this is the time to do it.
That's good, Mike.
I also have Florida. I'll be brief on this. Just look at their defense, and they got rid of Campbell, Mitchell, and Kulikov. They had Matheson. They added Pizik, Demers, and Yandel. To me, it's a dramatic improvement. Age-wise, durability-wise, maybe not leadership-wise, but I think that eventually will come. The concern with them right now is Luongo's hip, but they have Reimer there as a plan B, and the fact that they're going to be without Huberdeau for 3 months and without Bukestad for the first month. So they have 2 key injuries starting the season, but I think there's enough there, and I think that a guy like Barkov is going to grow in terms of his ability to take control of the game. So I think they'll finish in second.
Russ.
I'm going to go Boston Bruins here. For as bad as I thought they were last year, they've made a lot of the moves that I sort of wanted them to make for this year. Brandon Carlo is a guy I told people at the draft, after the draft, I had him drafted as a first rounder. I liked him best defenseman for the Bruins in that draft. Like, I knew he would be good. I don't know if he's 100% ready. We'll see. That's what we'll find out. And if he did start in the third pairing, wouldn't shock me. But in his entire career, he has always been a top pairing guy covering the best talent he could face in any league. So he's covered McDavid. He's covered all those guys. So he might stay with Chara because Chara might be able to look after him. And Ty will be able to tell you this, but I probably updated him on O'Gara 3 or 4 times in the last couple of years. Like, I like what I see out of him. He doesn't take a lot of dumb penalties. He took a few in the preseason, but I think they're sort of the toughness penalties. So their defense is definitely better. It's younger. It's faster. And I think Backes does help him initially, definitely for the first couple of years. So when I look at those things, I'm not even worried if we don't look and can't see a lot of scoring from the Bruins, because I think with Rask playing at a Tuukka Rask level, they can win a lot of close games now.
Yeah, keep in mind, too, he played entirely too many games these past few years.
Yeah.
And now Hudobin's there.
Hudobin is the Glenn Healy of backups. I love him.
Yeah. He loves ping pong, too. He's the guy that can step in for 20, 25 games there, and that's what they need. It's not Svedberg and Gustafsson anymore. It's an actual capable NHL goaltender.
Well, if we don't hurry, I'll be the Joffrey Lupul of parent picker-uppers. So I'm going to we will finish this out with obviously we all picked Tampa to finish first if you haven't done your math at home. And that, that is something that I want Ty to speak on because he covers the Lightning for us. The only thing I will say about Tampa is this, that I think Kucherov is going to get signed, that they're working on it. They're getting close, but I think it's going to be a shorter deal than they wanted. And I think that could be an issue. That's all right. For now, it just doesn't much matter now because Tampa's living in the now for sure. And the other thing I'll say is Hedman is going to be the best defenseman in the NHL this year, bar none. He will pass the other two, Doughty and Carlson. He's going to pass both of them. And I thought he passed them at the World Cup, in my opinion.
Will he pass Ekblad?
That's a good. Ekblad's going to be right there with him, but I think he'll win it this year. So, Ty, what are your thoughts on Tampa?
Great team again. You bring back just about everyone from last year. Everyone who was a key contributor is back, and now you're introducing Braden Point to your NHL roster probably as well. It's a very highly touted prospect for them. I thought he played really well in the preseason. And I like the moves. I think overall they are in a win now mode. Yes, the biggest question mark or the biggest storyline heading into this season, aside from Kucherov when he does resign. How do they divvy up the starts between Bishop and Vasilevsky? Vasilevsky is obviously the goaltender of tomorrow, and Bishop is unlikely to return just based on the cap crunch they have to go through over these next couple of seasons.
Right.
But do they give it one final go with Bishop, or do they have finally have Vasilevsky emerge as the starter and move Bishop at the deadline to a team like Dallas, or to someone else who needs a goaltender in St. Louis? You never know, right? Yeah. So these things are weird by nature. So I wouldn't be surprised if Vasilevsky emerged as the starter, but that is the biggest question mark concern surrounding Tampa Bay entering this season.
Yeah, I agree. Well put. And I don't think there's any way they trade Bishop this year. Yeah. I think they're going to ride it out and just let him go. I think the way they look at it is they say, okay, we've got one chance. If Vasilevsky goes down, we have a hell of a backup. Yeah. I think he'll get backup minutes. I don't think he'll be happy about it, but I think he will. And I think next year he'll hit the UFA market kind of pissed off because he didn't have a good year this year because he didn't play very much. But teams will understand that because of what happened. Or Vasilevsky could blow out a knee and Bishop could be the goalie for the entire year. So they're in a spot where there's no point in moving him. They're not going to get anything of value. They don't need anything of value to fill any spots for him. So why not just hold him on as just like they're in the weird spot of being able to just have a great goalie like that and just let him go for the cap space, which is what they do.
I agree with that, but you never know what will crop up throughout the league that might be an opportunity for them. Like Jake Allen got hurt with St. Louis, and Jordan Binnington was called up. If it's a serious injury, and I don't know anything about the injury, and we're going down the line, and St. Louis,
but that could be the break that Binnington's been waiting for, and that might actually make St. Louis the winning team we think they could be.
And
Sure.
and on Tampa remember if they trade Bishop anywhere at all, they could be playing him in the Stanley Cup final or the play. And they're not looking at just the conference. They're looking at the entire league, and they're gonna have to play that guy. So there's no point in trading him to St. Louis or Dallas or places like that where they could end up having to play them in the Stanley Cup final. They don't want to do that. So
I agree.
that's how I see it. Remember, without the buzz, guys, it is just
Wait,
hockey.
I don't get to say anything about Tampa.
I'm sorry, I really have to go. I really do. My child is waiting.
Starts the season. That's a big deal. Go ahead.
Okay, I apologize, Russ. Got through 24 of these. I apologize. But thanks so much, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.